I cannot tell a lie. Framing is one of my least favourite things about being an artist, but it is necessary. And framing your own pictures will save you a fortune. Please don't get me wrong. I think the job that professional framers do is marvellous, but it's expensive. And if I have at any time 50 paintings framed up, that's an awful lot of money tied up in bits of wood and glass. I do not make my own frames. I don't have those woodworking skills. I do not cut my own mounts. Cannot bevel a corner to save my life, but I can construct and still save a lot of money. My name's Liz Chaderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share tips and tricks that I wish I'd known about when I started, and one of those is all about how to frame your work. And just before we crack on, and I do promise I won't talk too much, so please stick around, just think, why do we need to frame? And there's sort of two main reasons. First is to enhance our picture. A good frame can make an average picture look pretty special, and a bad frame can make a really good picture not look bad because it's a really good painting, but can certainly detract from it. And the most important thing, and maybe something we always forget about, we want to protect our artwork. It needs protecting against water. It needs protecting against light, potentially. Insects, those little thrip things that rather like to feast on paper. We need to protect against fungal spores. You can sometimes see black mottling on old paper where it's become damp and fungal spores have sort of taken over. It has a job to do as well as to look nice, but we don't want our frame to damage our artwork. I'll mention them as I go through. Right, let's have a look at all the tools we might need. It goes without saying, I guess, that we actually need a flat surface to work on and somewhere with good light, because we need to spot when there's particles of dust caught between the glass and frame. I've covered my dining room table with a cloth just so nothing gets scratched. Of course, we need our frame that's the right size. And as I say, I buy all my frames ready-made. They kind of do what they say. And I buy them in bulk so that I get them at a discount. I am not snobby at all about reusing frames. So if you find a nice frame in a charity shop or what you might call a thrift shop, brilliant, buy it. You're going to have to take it apart, but that's not tricky. Something that I absolutely would not save money on is your mount. It's got to fit your picture and enhance it. If you try to use a mount that is too small or too big, or you sort of use a mount that doesn't fit your frame properly, it looks dreadful. The mounts are the most expensive bits of cardboard you will ever buy. You need it to be acid free, because what dates a picture like nothing else is when you've got this, and if you see the core of your mount board starting to go yellow, means it's not acid free, it is being affected by UV light, and it ages your picture. Those are the obvious bits. We need tape. We need some framers tape because we're going to seal the back. We might need this. It's a tab driver. And at the back of your frame, you've got to hold the backboard into the frame. We might need some glass cleaner. We'll need some cord for the back. Do not use string. This needs to be really strong, and the break weight on it is what you'll see described as. Make sure it's 3-4 times the weight of your picture, because if that breaks, it's going to fall off the wall, smash the glass, chip the frame, and take out whatever's beneath it. I know this because it happened once. One of my pictures I had sold, and luckily it did not break anything as it fell off the wall. We'll need some hardware just to attach to the back. May need an eraser, we may need a pencil, we'll need some screwdrivers. Let's get on. This might seem blindingly obvious, but check your painting. Is it really finished? Have you removed any pencil marks? Have you removed any masking fluid? Have you signed it? I only once got a painting professionally framed and there was masking fluid on it. It was so annoying. Luckily, I think only I could see it. If it's very cockled, it's going to be right pain to actually frame. You need to flatten it out. What you can do is dampen the back, put it face down, weight it under heavy books. You can just iron it with a sort of medium heat iron, flatten things out. The other thing to check is if you've used salt in your paintings, can you see there that lovely texture we get from our salt? Make sure it's all removed. Salt attracts moisture, and again, if you live in a damp climate, it can pull moisture into the frame and actually steam it up. A friend of mine who was a framer in South Africa said she had a painting returned to her because it had misted up, and it was because the salt had been left on this sort of piece. When you've got the right size mount and your piece, I always like to just double check, because sometimes if you turned it just by a few degrees, it might actually improve the composition, particularly with my animals, because it gives them a slightly quirkier look to them. No, the way I painted it was upright, and that's how I want it. So that's fine. But it's just worth checking if there's bits that you want to hide or bits that you particularly like. You know, I do like that salt texture. Let's make sure it's there, rather than putting the frame further down. And then I am holding the painting and the mount, and I am flipping them over. I'm going to grab a little bit of tape to hold it temporarily in place. Take off some of the stickiness just so that isn't a problem. Flip it over and double check. Yep, we are happy. Put it over. You might be tempted to stick it all the way round. Resist that temptation. We actually want to hinge it just at the top. And you might think, why? And it's simply because paper and wood, they're living things. They expand and contract. And if it's taped all the way round, it cannot move. Now, I'm using framing tape. This should be acid-free. Do not use sellotape or masking tape, because that will lose its stickiness and you'll find your painting will slip out of the frame with time. Just gently peel off the little bits that you had just used to keep it in place. Flip it over again, and this is when I would sign it. Where you sign your picture is entirely up to you. I think down here. I sign mine in pencil, which a lot of people do not approve of. Oh, it's my painting, so I'm doing it my way. You might want to sign it in watercolour. That is up to you. I realised as I was editing the video that I hadn't actually explained what the purpose of the mount was. I made a rude comment about it being the most expensive piece of cardboard you'll ever buy. But the whole point of it is that it acts as a buffer to stop your painting rubbing against the glass. I said that natural materials like paper and wood expand and contract, and that can lead to a bit of rubbing. And if you haven't got that little sort of spacer, which is what the mount does, then that can damage your painting. Pictures in the mount, so now we need to sort the frame out. If it's a brand new frame like this, obviously we've got to remove the plastic, recycle it if you jolly well can. These little protective corners can be useful, so you probably want to keep those. I will put the link to ready-mades in the description, just in case that's any use to you. Looking at the back of your frame, you'll see, I mean, this has got a little hanger on it, and I don't like these, so ignore that. And these little tabs here are what keep this backboard into the frame. I would use a little flat screwdriver just to lever these up. These are flexible tabs. You can get rigid ones, so if you're recycling a frame, They may be rigid, so you won't actually be able to bend them, at which point you're going to have to get some pliers, pull them out, and you will need new tabs to put in. Once all the tabs are out of the way, the only good thing about this is that you can just pull the backboard off. If you haven't got one of those, just use your little screwdriver and hoik up from the edge to release that. This has got a bit of protective paper in it. That may or may not be useful, so we won't scrunch that up. And then here's your frame. See, the glass is just loose and can be pushed up should you need to. What we need to do is make sure this is scrupulously clean. So I can immediately see there's a white mark there. It's on the outside, so I can remove that. I am happy just to use ordinary glass cleaner. Some people prefer white vinegar. Some people just use a soft cloth. Ooh, listen to that squeak. I clean from the edges into the middle, because the worst thing is when you catch a tiny little mot of dust between your mount and the glass. It really shows. If there are tiny bits of dust in the centre, you've got the painting, there's a tiny bit of dust, then the glass, don't worry about it. It won't show up. So I push it to the centre, pay particular attention to the edges, and then polish it off. I can't remember if I said try and work in a clean environment. Ban your cats from anywhere near your framing, because cat hair is the bane of your life. Wiggle things around, look really, really carefully. When you're happy, grab your mount and put it in face down. You may wish to use a backing board. So this is just a piece of board, it can be any colour because it's not on show, that is cut to the size of your frame and sits between this and that backing hardboard, and that acts as a buffer. This is acid free as well, and that sits in there and stops any contact between your painting and the hardboard backing, which may have acid in it. You could potentially reuse the paper that came in it, but you will not know if that is acid free or not. Usually I flip things over and I look. Be careful to hold it all, but you look and just really, really, really check whether there is anything between the glass, that was on the outside, between the glass and the mount particularly, because this is where it'll show. So just gently ease it down beyond the tabs. It might be quite a tight fit. When you are happy, get your backing board. Make sure if it's got a hanger, that's on the outside. Again, this may be a tight fit. If it is tight, use your little screwdriver and just ease it in. Probably worth putting just a couple of tabs down by hand, just to hold it roughly in place, and do that final check. Do that final check, final check, final check. Flip it back over and then hold the board really firmly in place and use that little screwdriver just to lever things down. Let me just show you this tab driver. So basically it is loaded with tabs. These little tabs, and you use it just like a nail gun. So say I wanted an extra tab here, I don't need it, but if I did, I push hard against there and click, it'll make a loud bang. And it drives a tab into the frame, and that just keeps my frame in place. Sometimes shop bought frames just don't have enough tabs in, so I'm holding the frame, pushing against that, and hopefully that's gone in, and that will make that super secure. We are not done yet. Sorry. We need to now tape the back, because if you are a little silverfish or a little thrip, you know, you can get through that gap quite happily if there's a yummy meal of paper on the other side. Some people use brown tape that has already got gum on it and you have to dampen it. I don't like doing that because it's introducing moisture into my painting or my frame. I use self-adhesive tape, and what I do is overlap it and then cut to size. I then use my fingernails to sort of push it into place. Obviously depends whether your backing board is lower than your frame, it's likely to be. Starting in the centre, just smooth it out. If it rocks up a bit, don't worry, it's on the back, no one's going to see it. Rotate my frame, do the same, and bevel it, start in the middle and gently put that into place. Some people at the corners overlap it and cut it so that it's totally sealed. I don't think you ever totally seal it, but I do realise those corners might have a little gap. Let me just show you on this edge what some people do, and you then have a choice of what to do at the corners. So you put your tape along the frame so it is longer than the frame, whereas before I was cutting it to the exact length. And then they cut down on the edge there, oops, and you can press that into place, and then that top bit sits on the top frame. All we have to do is put our D-rings on. These are single. You can get bigger ones with 2 screw holes. If you are framing a really big painting, you need a stronger D-ring. In the olden days, they used to say put the D-ring about 1/3 of the way down. To put mine probably 10-15 centimetres from the top, and I just use something like my screwdriver to measure and just put a little mark, and you want both sides to be pretty much in the same place. Frames are often very soft wood, so they're usually relatively easy to screw into. If you have a hardwood frame, obviously you could drill a pilot hole and repeat on the other side, and then grab a bit of cord. Your choice whether you hang it on one string or double it. I actually like to double it simply because it gives a little more flexibility for the purchaser, the height they're going to hang it at. If you happen to have a handy person, tying the knot is a lot easier. But if not, I come over to one of the D-rings and then I tie a reef knot. That is not strong enough because this is a bit boingy. That knot can come loose. So I just then do a little half hitch or 2 half hitches on both sides. And then what my South African framing friend told me, just do a little overhand knot, just an ordinary knot in the end, push it as close to the final slip knot, and then if anything slips, it's going to stop it going loose. If we're being posh about this, we can grab a little bit of tape and we could just tape that in place just to make it look neat and like we've cared about it, because if we don't care about our paintings, why should anyone else? And there you go, we are framed. This is where you turn it over and spot the cat hair, and then you cry because you'd have to take all of that tape off and do it all over again. And that's why check is my top tip. But you could stick a card on the back with a date, your name, and those sorts of details, should you wish to, or even care instructions. do not display in direct sunlight. Talking of sunlight, this is ordinary picture glass. You can get UV absorbent glass. You can get non-reflective glass. And we are done.